All right. So we are recording now. So thank you, ladies. Thank you all for joining me today. I appreciate you being here. I ask that you bear with me because while I am a style guru, I am not a tech guru. So I appreciate your patience today. We are here to talk about understanding your body shape. And so I named this the perfect 10 because I really just want for you all to know and understand that you are perfect just as you are. And so there's a lot of pressure that we face and we see to really, conform to the perfect body type. But whatever the body type you have, the body shape you have, you are perfect the way God made you. And so I just want to start with that. All right. So, I am clicking through my slides, but again, it will take a little bit. I did this in Canva, and let's see. Sorry. There we go. We're moving. So before we jump into the presentation, I'd like to know where you're joining from. So if you want to share in the chat where you're joining from, that would be great. Nola, okay. All right. Anyone else? All right. Well, seems like you're a little shy. I only saw Nola come up, but I appreciate you. Okay, Germantown, Philly, Germantown, Maryland. All right, Owens Mills. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So, in looking at our agenda today, we're going to do a few things. We're going to talk a little bit about body positivity, self-love. We're also going to talk about why shape matters, right? So, why your body shape matters. We're going to introduce the 5 body shapes. And then we're going to talk a little bit about dressing for your particular shape. We're going to end by talking a little bit about body confidence. And I am going to save a little bit of time to take questions if you have any. So I would love for this to be interactive. So at times I'm going to ask you to drop something in the chat. If you have questions, feel free to put it in the chat. I am monitoring that as I'm going through as well. And I think it's actually a little bit easier for me to see the chat than for me to see the thumbs up. So I will just ask that you bear with me here. All right, and I see one more person has popped on, so I'm going to admit them. Sorry about that. All right. So I'm trying to get my slides to cooperate with me a little bit, and they're acting a little funny. So again, thank you for your patience. Okay, so this is where I want to be with this quick little video. Welcome in, Alex. I appreciate you for joining us. We briefly just went over where people were dialing in from. And so now we're going to kick off with the actual presentation. So I'd like for you all to just look at this brief video. It's about a minute long.
Really knew was when I looked in the mirror and saw a few things that really disturbed me. My hair wasn't mine. I had already started using like weaves, right? I started putting makeup on. I didn't even look like myself anymore. And I had fake eyelashes, 18 years old. I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. So I went through a hard process of relearning myself, liking myself the way I came out, which was difficult here. In this country, it's hard if you're not white to do that. Okay? It's hard if you're not tall to do that. It's hard if you don't have big boobs. It's hard if you have not been engineered by a man of America. It was sending a silent message, but really clear, that you're not what America wants. You know what I mean? And if you're creating things and you want to create things that are true to your perspective, I think it's really important that you decide you like yourself. Helps you create from a very good place.
All right. So I thought that was a good way to start us off because, as I said, it's important for me, in doing this to talk a little bit about body positivity. And so I do a lot of work with style. I work with women and clients, on how they show up, right? And you all know this because you've seen my posts on LinkedIn and other places. And so it's important for me as I'm working with clients not to make them feel like they've got to change or conform. And so, your body, how God made you, as I said, is perfect. Now, if there are things you want to change or improve, that's great. That's your prerogative. You can certainly do that. But I do want clients to get in the mindset and folks that I come in contact with to get in the mindset of appreciating your body for who you are and what your body does for you. And so when, we look at these stats, right? It says 80%, research shows us that 80% of Americans feel dissatisfied with their bodies. And so by, joining me in the chat, I want to ask, how many of you are on social media? How many of you spend time on social media? And so I met a lot of you through LinkedIn, but I'm not just talking about LinkedIn. I'm talking about the Instagrams, the Facebooks, TikToks, all of those things. So if you could put in the chat, drop in the chat, whether you are a social media addict, do you live on social media all the time? Do you barely touch social media? So show me some of that in the chat. And I'm just monitoring on my other screen over here. All right. Every single day. All right. You got the trifecta, Melanie. Okay. Anybody else? And Darlene, I see you're New York City. Okay. I didn't shout you out earlier, but thank you for putting that in there. Anyone else? Okay. All right. So if we spend time on social media, one of the things that we know happens on social media is that there's a lot of photo-based activities, particularly with Instagram, Facebook, even with LinkedIn at this point. And so folks are, showing us what they're doing in life. We're seeing a lot of that. And whether we realize it or not, that influences us. 1 in 3 people have reported they would give up pizza, social media, or alcohol if they could get the perfect body they're looking for. So that's kind of, that's interesting. That's interesting. Okay, so I see, Cara, you are social media heavy. Darlene, mostly LinkedIn, sometimes Facebook. Okay. Okay. And LinkedIn only. And I think I think that might be Aaron. So yeah, so we've got a fair amount of social media here. And what social media is sometimes doing is having the effect on us where we don't feel good about ourselves, whether it's our bodies, whether it's our lifestyles, whether it's our access to certain things. That is the impact social media is having on us. And so body positivity is something that I think, um, we can all benefit from. Body positivity is this movement that really came out of the fat acceptance movement, right? It's rooted in that. And essentially, what it promotes is a positive view of all bodies, whether you are thin, whether you are thick, whether you are curvy, straight, whatever it is. Body positivity is all about accepting your body for what it is. And so I think that is really important as we look to, okay, how do I want to show up? How do I want to style myself? What's my signature style? How do I want to curate my style? I think it's important for us to really start the process of loving ourselves and being positive about our bodies. All right. So before we fully jump in, yes, this is the message. Everybody is beautiful, right? And I love this. I love this picture. I love it because it shows people in all sizes. And so, one of the things that we know in body positivity is that we're not fat shaming folks, we're not skinny shaming folks. And one of the things I love about, the work that I do and being in contact with so many people is that we can share these concepts with folks, right? We speak in words and languages today that we didn't 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And so when you think about fat shaming and skinny shaming, these were things that 10, 15 years ago, we didn't even know these words, right? We didn't talk about these words in ways that we do today. And so I just think, as I said, it's very important for us to embrace who we are, petite, tall, big, small, it's important. All right. So it looks like, excuse me, I got one more person to admit, so bear with me, folks. I'm going to do that. Ooh, hopefully I admitted her. Okay. All right. So part of the reason why it's really important, and I wanted to start with this webinar of all webinars, is that I think it is important to know what we're working with, right? And so people say knowledge is power. I say knowing is glowing. It is important for us to know what we're working with so that we know how to outfit ourselves in ways that make us feel confident, so that we can look confident, so that we can really show up as our best selves. And so our focus today, in addition to identifying the body shapes, we are looking to talk a little bit about how we can accentuate all the positives we have, how we can balance in places that we need balance for our body, and then how we can camouflage, right? And so if you feel like there are certain deficits you have, we're going to talk a little bit about that as well per each body shape. Okay. So just a little bit about myself. I think I know most of the folks on here. However, if I don't, I wanted to tell you a little bit about who I am. My name is Sheila Amo. I consider myself a reformed HR executive. I am the chief style curator at the Perry Perspective. And I have a business where I coach and I consult. And so I got, the joy of taking the things that I love in life, right? And one of them is style, and one of them is coaching and pouring into women. And I got to marry those two things. And so that is how, I come to you today with those things in my pocket. I have worked in human resources, or previously worked in human resources, for over 20 years in the DC metropolitan area. I worked in nonprofits and professional services. I am a senior certified HR professional. I'm an inner presence coach, and I'm also a certified executive culture coach. So those are just, the alphabet soup that I have. But, as I said, my passion is really about coaching, and it's really about style. And so I'm excited that I get to share that with women like you. So when we think about shape, some of the things that we absolutely have to consider are the bust to waist to hip ratio. And so one of the things I'm going to share with you after we're done here today, I'm going to send you an email, and there is a website that you can go to, that if you don't know your shape, or if you are unsure about it, or if you think things have changed over the years, because that's possible too. I'm going to share that with you so that you can put your calculations in there and actually get confirmation on what your body shape actually is. Now, the etc. there, that represents, excuse me, some other things, right? So are you a tall girl? Are you a short girl? Are you a curvy girl? Are you, you know, top heavy? Are you bottom heavy, right? So some of that is covered in the shapes, but some of that is also, you know, I bake that into the etc. Because what I will say is that while there are, you know, generally 5 accepted shapes, excuse me, folks sometimes go between one or more shapes. And so that's something to know too. And the etc. kind of helps you figure that out, right? And so, you know, we're just gonna dive right in. So I'm gonna say to you, these are the 5 shapes, right? And people use different language to describe the 5 shapes. So you'll see the first woman on this slide. There's a triangle that covers her body. The second woman, there's an upside down triangle. So you can use, like you hear triangle, you might hear pear, because that's the other shape that I see here. And so I'm going to use the word pear because that's just what I like. And as our Auntie Tabitha Brown says, or our cousin Tabitha Brown, that's my business, right? So these are the shapes. We've got pear, we've got an inverted pear, we've got this one here, which is considered an apple. We've got rectangle, or what I like to call banana, and then we've got the hourglass. So does anyone on the call already know your shape? And if you do, and don't mind sharing, drop me a note and let me know, what shape are you? All right, I'm having a Ferris Bueller moment here. Anyone? Anyone? Inverted triangle, thank you. Oval or apple, thank you, Melanie. All right, okay. So we are starting with pear, which I have affectionately named Pearlicious, right? And so the pear is pretty curvy, typically has a defined waist, more bottom heavy than anything else. So that means that your hips are wider than your shoulders. Pear-shaped folks usually have narrow shoulders or sloped shoulders. And we'll get into that a little bit more. And then for pear-shaped gals, the weight typically accumulates on your thighs, in your booty, or around your hips. And a lot of times you tend to be smaller on top. But again, hard and fast rules, there are not, right? Simply because you could be a pear-shaped person but have an ample bust. So I just want you to know that as we're going through. All right. So the next shape we have is the inverted pearlicious, right? So this is our girl, Sherry Shepherd. She is broader on top, right? So if you're an inverted pear, you tend to be broader on top. You have a narrow bottom half. You typically have defined shoulders and likely have an ample bust, right? And so for pear-shaped gals, it were inverted pear shapes, you can be a completely different size up top than you are on the bottom. So you may be a 2 on the bottom and a 6 up top, right? So Sasha, does that sound familiar at all? Am I speaking to you? Am I, you know, is this resonating with you?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then I would also say with inverted pairs, your waist is a lot of times smaller than your hips. But it's not, there's not a huge difference because you're already so small in your hip area. And then you tend to have slim or toned legs. All right. So let's get to where we are on this next shape. So this is apple-tastic. And I think Melanie mentioned that she thought she was an apple, right? And so apple shape, folks, your bust tends to be larger than your hips, and your weight is typically concentrated around your midsection and in your bust. So, it's your torso where you tend to put on your weight. And that sometimes gives the illusion of either being, having a bigger chest or having a protruding tummy. And sometimes your tummy does protrude, and that's okay too, right? Because there are tips and tricks that we have that can camouflage that. With apple-tastic folks, you tend not to have as much of a defined waist. And your legs tend to be slimmer as well. And your shoulders, are broad and wide. Okay, all right. I see someone chimed in and said, you guess you're apple-tastic. Okay. And so once you go on to the weight calculator and you put in your actual measurements, it will confirm for you whether or not you're apple-tastic. Okay. So next, we've got the banana, right? And so these are folks who have a fairly thin build or a straight build, right? And so I think that you can be a plus size person, right? And also have a banana shape. It just means that your bust to waist to hips are more straight, right? When you look at those numbers. And so the folks who fall into this category are typically, straight and athletic build. And again, you can be a thin athletic build or a thicker athletic build. You don't have to be, tiny like Jada Pinkett in order to fall into this category. Your bust, waist, and hip measurements vary, but it's very slight, VERY, slight in terms of that variance. And then what I'll also say about these folks is that there are no significant curves around the waist area. Your bust can be large or small. And so I'm a person who falls into the banana category. And I tend to have a medium to ample size bust. I don't have a petite top. And so I'm also one of these people as far as falling into this category, like I said, with inverted triangles or inverted pairs, I have a different size on the bottom than I am on the top. All right. And so last, but certainly not least, these are my hourglass girls, right? And so ironically enough, hourglass, this is the shape that is kind of sought after the most, right? And when I get into the stats about how many women actually have these shapes, you'll see that this is really a thirst trap, right? Most of us can't get there. Most of us will never be here unless we, do some medical modification to our bodies. So with hourglass girls, the hips and busts are typically equal in terms of their width. And then these folks have a relatively narrow waist. The proportionate bust, waist, and hip ratio ends up leaving them looking pretty curvy, right? And so again, what I wrote on this slide is that this is the stereotypical shape that folks find very flattering. I submit that all of our shapes are flattering, right? We just have to know how to style them. And then for these folks, their limbs can be fleshy or toned, right? So you can be curvy and plus size hourglass, or you can be an average size hourglass or a petite hourglass, right? They exist as well. And so those are the 5 shapes. So is there anything in here that surprised anyone? Any new news for anyone? I'm sure you've heard these terms before. Some additional terms I've heard are spoon shapes. I'm trying to think. The typical rectangle. There are lots of ones added. I think they call an upper spoon or a bottom spoon. There are all sorts of new words they're coming out with to describe these shapes. Oh, okay, the rectangle. Okay, so Darlene, tell me a little bit about why you were surprised. Were you surprised to know that was a shape? Say more about that. If you are talking, you might be muted. All right. Well, we're going to keep going. And so these are the stats that I wanted to share with you. Um, and if you are looking at the screen, you will see the ideal that is put out there for all of us women, by which we a lot of times are measuring ourselves and comparing ourselves. That hourglass, only 8% of women actually fall into that category. Only 8%. So that is, oftentimes most sought after, but most unrealistic in terms of folks who are naturally built that way. Oh, okay. I see, Darlene. You're surprised that rectangle is associated with an athletic build. Yeah, it's more of a straight build. And if you think about basketball, women basketball players, if you think about women gymnasts, a lot of times they are pretty straight. They have smaller waists, but the waist to hip ratio and the waist to bust ratio, excuse me, is really not that large. And so they end up looking more streamlined than anything else. So in terms of these stats, the largest category are actually the bananas, the rectangles, Darlene. And then we've got the pairs. We've got the inverted pairs. We've got apples. And then we have got the hourglass, folks. All right. So let's talk a little bit about how we are best set to style these different shapes. And so again, we're talking about accentuating the positive, balancing our bodies with the clothes we put on them, and camouflaging, and I see that I have a typo here, but camouflaging what we would consider the deficits, right? So we're going to just go through some do's and don'ts here. All right. So if you are a pear shape, right? Again, that means that you are bottom heavy, right? So your curves tend to be more from your hips down, right? Your weight gains typically show up in your hips, in your thighs, and your butt. And so some of the things that you should be doing in terms of your clothing and how you style yourself, is emphasizing your shoulders and your bust as well as your waist, because you typically have a pretty well-defined waist, proportionate to the size of your hips and your butt and your thighs, right? And so another thing I would say you should do is be elongating your legs, right? And so we'll talk a little bit about some things you can do that will elongate your legs. And then third, I think one of the things you should aim to do is lengthen your torso. So torso length is something that is, again, it falls into one of the, the category of etc., right? So if you have a short torso and you have ample bust, then you end up looking bigger than you actually are in reality. And so you want to do some things that will kind of stretch out your torso and lengthen your torso. And so some of the things that, if you are perilicious, that you should be avoiding are straight or pencil skirts, because they essentially bring the eye directly to the widest part of your body. And so if that is what you want to go for, you certainly can do that. But if you want to camouflage the widest part of your body, or balance the widest part of your body with kind of your chest and the upper part of your body, your shoulders, then, excuse me, I would say stay away from pencil skirts, stay away from lots of pleats, and then skinny jeans. So skinny jeans are on here as things to avoid. However, again, there are no hard and fast rules. You can do skinny jeans, excuse me, if you're going to do a top that's an A-line top, right? And so there are ways that you can balance that. Some of the things that I think, are good for you, those are the things that I have down here on the right-hand side. So A-line dresses and skirts are flattering. V-necks. V-necks are flattering because they help to elongate your torso, right? And so they give you a line to look at. In terms of your pants, boot cut or straight cut pants. And so some people might be thinking, are boot cut pants still in? Are they? Yes, you can wear boot cut. So I'm not talking about 1970 flare. I'm talking about a slight boot cut that will then give you some balance, right, to what you've got going on in your hip area. Additionally, horizontal stripes, excuse me, and patterns, and that is for your torso area. Those would, again, bring some attention and bring some balance to what you've got going on the bottom. So they will draw attention to your top and they will elongate you. Particularly the horizontal stripes will elongate your torso and lengthen your torso. Now, when we talk about elongating elongating your legs, that's where the straight cut pants come into play. That's where the boot cut pants come into play, because they make you look longer. They give you that trouser look, and that's what you're going for. Any questions on that so far? I didn't see anyone raise their hand and say they were actually a pear cut or a pear shape, excuse me, when you all were sharing. So if there are no questions, I'm going to move on to the inverted pairs. And so again, what you want to do, so you are the exact opposite, right, of the pear. You are broader on your top half. So you typically, again, have those defined shoulders. Your shoulders are lovely. And so you've got typically a larger bust. And so what you want to do in order to create balance is accentuate your lower body. You too want to lengthen your torso, especially if you have a short torso. And so the short torso just means that you're truncated, right? It means that your top half is much shorter than your bottom half. And so you want to do things that will lengthen your torso. And because you do typically have a smaller waist, you want to cinch your waistline. And you can do that through cinched blazers, wearing belts. You can also do that by wearing, kind of those the bustier tops, right? And so those are things that naturally cinch you that you can wear as a top under a jacket. Some of the things that you want to avoid are horizontal prints, particularly up top. Um, you don't want to draw additional attention to yourself. And so you want to steer clear of the horizontal prints because those just add volume to you. You also want to steer clear of chunky knits and then shoulder pads because you have nicely defined shoulders naturally. You don't need to add shoulder pads to your top half. You want to avoid those. And so some of the things that, excuse me, you can do, I would say pleats are great for you. A-line silhouettes are great for you. And so I'm talking about on your bottom half, right? So if you find a dress that is a button up top, but it's pleated down below, that would look great on you. If you find separates where the skirt is pleated, that would be a good look for you because what that pleating does and what the A-line does is it brings balance to the broadness of what you've got going on up top, right? Whether it's in your shoulders or in your chest or both, the A-line silhouettes, the pleats down below, anything with embellished pockets. So think cargo pants, think loose cargo pants, right? That have the big pockets on them. Think cargo skirts, right? That are loose and have the added benefit of embellished pockets. Those do a lot to balance you out. And so as opposed to looking, just like you've got kind of the broad shoulders into a skinny point, when you put these things on the bottom, it gives you balance, right? Any questions on that? All right. So what we've got next, we've got Apple-tastic, right? And so for my apple shaped ladies, some of the things that you want to do, you want to highlight the slimmest point on your torso. And typically, the slimmest point on your torso is right beneath your chest, right beneath your bust. Darlene, I'm going to get to you in a minute. Um, and so that is, if you think about empire waist, that would be a good look for all my Apple-tastic girls. Now, you want to be careful when you do empire. And empire, again, is just when you find the seam or the darting right beneath your bust. You want to be careful because if it's a seam, you want to make sure that the top is large enough so that your bust is above the seam. You don't want to be wearing an empire waist where you're kind of half up, half down. You want to raise your chest so that your chest is fully above the seam, and then the seam hits you right at the point below your chest. So that accentuates the smallest part of your torso. You also want to layer pieces, and then you want to mix colors and textures. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about the layering when I get into kind of some of the pieces that work well for you. The things that you want to avoid if you are Apple-tastic, you want to avoid puffy jackets and tops, right? So I think oftentimes um, the um, the thinking is, well, maybe I'll just wear a bigger top and that will hide some of the things that I've got going on. And it's counterintuitive. It's totally counterintuitive. You don't want to go bigger because that just gives more volume to what you already have going on. Um, you want to avoid cinching your waist. And so when I say cinching your waist, I mean your true waist. You want to avoid doing that as well. And then you want to also avoid high neck tops and high neck dresses. And that is because you're kind of covering everything up and making things kind of look larger. So what you want to do is give yourself the grace to do a V-neck, to do a scoop neck, right? You want to show some of that torso. Yes, high neck, not dresses in general. Yes. And so some of the things that work really well for you if you are apple-tastic, asymmetric hemline tops, right? So you can do an asymmetric hemline. You could also do an asymmetric top, so an off the shoulder. I am a flash dance girl. I love an off the shoulder anything. So those work really well for apple-tastic folks. Tailored jackets are another thing that work really well. And when you do your tailored jackets, what you want to do is layer under your tailored jackets. And so think like, nice basics. So like structured camis underneath. So again, you're showing some neckline, and that gives you the opportunity to elongate a little bit as well. The other thing that you want to consider, so when I talk about layering pieces as something that you definitely want to do, think about the long cardigans or car coats. Those look really good. And so they have, the cardigans that have sleeves, and then they have the kind that are sleeveless, that you can wear in the fall and spring. Those are really nice pieces for you, that will work well. And then you also, the best jean for you, the best pant for you, in terms of silhouette, are trouser pants. Trouser jeans and trouser pants generally. And so trousers, again, they tend to be fuller. And if you think back to, and I'm going to share this, I'll share a link to the presentation when I'm done, but the picture that I used for the woman who was apple-tastic, she had on trouser pants and she looked great in them. And so those are very forgiving for you. They balance you out. And so you want that fullness on the bottom, to help you balance out. And then another thing that looks really good for you as well, are pencil skirts, right? And so you can do pencil skirts layering on the top, whether you lay a longer jacket, a longer cardigan. You could also do a pencil skirt with an A-line top and then have a blazer on with that as well. And so the thing that you have to get right when you are apple-tastic is your proportions, right? And so you can have the A-line top, but then you want to do a jacket that's a little shorter so that you can appreciate the A-line. And so your jacket then needs to be a little bit cropped, or it needs to be longer. All right. Okay. And so oh, no, not last, we've got bananas. So with bananas, again, rectangle. And so your goal is to define your waist, right? And so while you are not as shapely as someone who is an hourglass, you do have a difference between what your waist circumference is and what your hips are. It may be slight, but you do have a little bit of definition. And so you want to do things that will further define that for you. And so for you, you want to define your waist, depending on your shoulders, again, because this is, like I said, not hard and fast rules. So I'm a banana, but I have broad shoulders. And so I don't really need to pad my shoulders. But if you have thinner shoulders, then that's something that you want to do. And then you also want to accentuate your legs. And so whether you are wearing mini dresses or mini skirts, you can also accentuate your legs with a monochromatic look. So that's all one color or in one color family. You can accentuate your legs that way. Another great way to accentuate your legs is to wear over the knee boots. And so you can find those in all price points. The things that you want to avoid if you're a banana, you want to avoid big baggy clothes. You want to avoid shapeless clothes, and you want to avoid the straight dress. And so I don't mean body conscious, I mean straight. And so there's a difference. If it's something that is straight, you're just going to look straight. But if it's a body conscious dress, then it will pick up the slight differences that you have between your bust, your waist, and your hips. So some of the things that work for you if you are a banana, pencil skirts, A-line dresses work as well, and A-line skirts. And that's again because they are going to fill you out on your bottom half, so they will give you the illusion of a curve. And then the tucking works for you too. So I'm a girl who likes a half tuck or a quarter tuck on my tops. And so half tuck is tucking in the whole front and leaving the back out. A quarter tuck is if it's a button down shirt, I tuck in only one side of that. And so that's something that is good on a banana person, banana shaped person. And then also trouser and straight pants. So I feel like trouser pants are really and trouser jeans are a winner in this. That's a theme that tends to look good, and it's a silhouette that tends to look good on most shapes. All right, Melanie, I see you have a long cardigan. That's excellent. All right. And so, okay, for our hourglass folks. Hourglass folks, what you want to do is accentuate your waistline. You want to lengthen your torso because again, I feel like I don't know if unless you're a tall person by nature, I feel like short torsos are just a thing, particularly with Black women. And I don't know why that is. I feel like I need to do some research on that. But short torsos are a thing. So we need to lengthen our torso. So hourglass folks need to lengthen your torso, and you can do that by, again, going to the V-necks. And then hourglass folks to balance, if you've got slight shoulders, again, you want to define your shoulders, and you can do that through light shoulder pads. You can do that through wearing strapless if that is accessible to you and you feel comfortable to that. What you want to avoid if you have an hourglass, again, boxy clothes. You want to avoid excess fabric. So again, think chunky knits. And then you also, again, want to avoid buttoning all the way to the top because the show of skin, the V-neck is something that helps to lengthen your torso. So the things that, are good on you, silhouettes that look nice on you, V-neck tops and dresses, pencil skirts because you've got, that great shape where you have a small waist and rounder hips and a rounder buttocks. You also want to focus on flat front pleats. Pleated front pants are not your friend. You don't want to do that. I would also say for folks who are hourglass and pear shape, if you've got pants that are stitched when you buy them, don't unstitch the pockets. And that's what I mean. If the pockets are stitched when you buy them and you are an hourglass or you are a pear shape, leave your pockets stitched. because what that will do was it'll keep you looking smooth, as opposed to if you unstitch them, then the pockets are going to bow out. And that's just going to create more heft there around your hips. So that's just kind of a style tip. And then you also want to invest in tailored blazers. So I see that I am running short on time, but we kind of talked about this a little bit. Other attributes to consider are torso. So as I said, I have a short torso. I am 5'2", and my legs are not the shortest part of me. It is my torso. If I had a longer torso, I would actually, be a little taller. My legs are not petite in length. My inseam is 31.5 inches, which is a regular inseam. It's just the torso that makes me a petite girl. So leg length and torso, those things are important for you to know. Inseam is, that's the thing that is something that, you always want to be aware of when you are buying pants. So the inseam is from, the length of your pants, right? The leg length of your pants. And then you also want to be aware of your curves. Are you a curvy girl? Are you a straight girl? Like, we used to always have this problem where we would buy jeans and there would always be the gap in the back. Now they make jeans specially to fit curvy girls, right? And to account for that gap. And so that's a good thing, because those didn't exist 20 years ago. And then the other thing that, will impact how you fit yourself in your clothes. And I think I saw someone in here. Yeah, Aaron, you said maybe you're a banana shape with ample bust. That is something that, you want to figure these things out so that when you're outfitting yourself, when you're styling yourself, you can do it with all of this knowledge in mind, so that okay, well, I'm this shape, but I have an ample bust. So maybe I should play this down, and play this thing up. So I want to kind of end where I began, where I began, and talk a little bit about body confidence. I think it's important for all of us to be okay with our bodies. And that is, I'm a yogi. And one of the things in yoga is that they call it a yoga practice. And so when we talk about body confidence, I get that it is a practice. And so it's something that I want you all to start practicing regularly. Body confidence is your ability to feel confident and to feel at home in your body, irrespective of size, irrespective of shape, irrespective of ability. And so I want to encourage you to nurture positive thoughts toward your body, nurture positive thoughts to what's available to you in terms of your style. Because I think for so long we've told ourselves, no, I can't wear this because I'm too this or I'm too that. And that's what you are telling yourself, but that's not the reality. Great style, and often all style, is accessible to us. We just got to figure out a way to do it. I'm a 52-year-old woman who likes to wear crop tops. Is it inappropriate? Perhaps if I had a daughter, she might say, yeah, but I don't think so. And I know how to do it for someone at my age, so that, it's accessible to me. So with that said, I am going to say to you, here are some ways that you can work on cultivating body confidence. I encourage you to show gratitude to your body for everything that it does, for everything that it can do. And I want you to say thank you to your body, because you're here, right? You didn't have to be here today. You could have actually not been here. And so the fact that you get up every day, every night before you go to sleep, say thank you. I want you to love on your body. And so, one of the things I encourage clients to do, this is an exercise that I call the love exercise, is to stand in front of the mirror. And you can start clothed or you can start partially clothed, but the goal is to get to standing in front of your mirror completely naked and be comfortable and not be fidgeting. But stand in front of the mirror and say something positive. I want you to do this for 7 days. That's the challenge that I give my clients. 7 days in a row. Say something positive to your body. Say what you like, whether it's your lips or your cheeks or it's your collarbone, whatever it is, say it. Right? That's between you and you. I want you to reframe negative talk. One of the things that I put up in the post for this webinar was that there's a voice in your head that tells you, oh, you can't wear this, you can't do this, you can't do that. I want you to confront that voice, challenge that voice, and redirect the voice in your head. That is your inner critic. And she plays a role that is sometimes good for us, but sometimes she's just a hater, right? She's just a hater. And so we've got to do some things to redirect her. Um, and then I want you to practice self-care, right? And I want you to do good things for your body. And so, we may have things that we want to change in our bodies, right? I'm not saying that you don't have things that you want to work on. We all may, and that is okay. But I want you to take care of your body, right? To feed it well, to give it rest, to move it. And if there are things that you want to change about it, then start working on that. Start thinking about a plan and start to do that. And then I want you to limit things that don't serve it. And so we talked about social media. We live in the age of influence. And social media is great for some things. I love it because it allows me to keep in touch with people. It helps me to be creative. But sometimes it makes me feel bad about myself. And when you are feeling that, I think you need to take a break. I need you to fast from social media if it's doing something that you find harmful. And even if you don't think it's harmful, from time to time, just take a break. 7 days. Be gone. Let the people miss you. All right. And so, with all that said, I know that we are running at time. I wanted to talk a little bit about what I can do for you. And I'm going to take these couple minutes because we did start a little late. And so I appreciate you giving me that grace. And so, in terms of what I can do for you, I work with women on elevating and optimizing your style and presence. And so your presence is all about, your ability to show up and to project confidence with ease and with poise and with self-assurance. And, I do this and I think this is important work because as we all know, as Black women, how you show up matters. It matters. People make judgments about you before you open your mouth. And so it is my goal to pour into women so that women who are ambitious, so that women who are entrepreneurs, so that women who are leaders, so that women who are striving for more can show up as their best selves so that you can lead with authenticity, with confidence, with substance, and yes, with style. And so I do that through working with you on presence, through working with you on style. As far as I'm concerned, foundational elements for style are substance, right? And so that is all about your inner brilliance. Those are the things that you have been working on your whole career, your education, your certifications, your experience, all of that good stuff. Another foundational element is purpose alignment. And so this is all about being connected to your values, so that you feel like you are showing up at work, in your personal life, with your family and with your friends in ways that are true to yourself. And then finally, there's that energy, right? And so energy is where we get into authenticity, is where we get into style, to swagger, to all of that. And so this is the work that I do with women, and I do it by helping them break up with their blockers. I do it by helping them pivot their perspective. I do it by helping them find their frequency, right? And so connecting or reconnecting with your inner it girl and exploring, right, what's available to you in your style and presence. And then I help you cultivate chic. And so that is what I have for you. I appreciate you being here. I think there may have been one or two questions that I didn't get through in the chat, or didn't get to in the chat. And so if you want to come off mute, if you want to raise a question now, I am more than happy to take that question. Y'all Ferris Bueller and me again.
Hi, this is Melanie.
Hey, Mel.
Hi, I didn't necessarily have a question, but I do have a comment. This was very helpful, especially for me because I am a victim of COVID, where I spent all those years in the house on Zoom calls and cameras off. So my style is like a -0. So I own all sweat clothes and exercise clothes and don't exercise. I'm an apple. I'm Appleicious.
Oh,
And I've just learned
fantastic.
to I've learned to really just accept my body type now because I'm a former skinny girl. Like I went to college weighing less than 100 pounds. So in my mind, I'm always still that thin girl, although my body doesn't look like it. So I had to really embrace my new size,
Mhm,
and my new space in the store,
mhm.
all of those things. And as I have, it's been a challenge finding the right things that go along with my body type. So this is good. This is good because I was clearly picking some items that were on my don't list,
Okay.
and not balancing them out. So I will certainly take this and go forward. And I would like to meet with you separately, offline to see how you can help me begin to really cultivate my style because I am a entrepreneur. So how you present yourself to your clients is important. And I cannot present myself in my current state in my workout clothes. So
Gotcha.
so thank you for giving us this taste of what you offer, because it shows me that it is valuable and I should take the time to invest in myself and how I look and how I feel. It's important. And I have a daughter too. So I want to be able to feel confident when I present myself. If I'm telling her to go out in the world and be confident, then I should be going out in the world and being confident too. So thank you again. I have enjoyed this.
Thank you. I appreciate your feedback, and I appreciate your candor and your vulnerability. And so, yeah, we can definitely talk offline. But I think what you're experiencing in terms of COVID and post-COVID and just kind of making our way back into the world, I don't think you are alone in that. And I think folks are struggling, and it's kind of like, okay, how do I get my mojo back? How do I show up now that I have to go into the office once or twice a week or every day for some people. And so, yeah, it's really unraveling. And it's not just, the attitude, right? It is, for our bodies, right? It's like wearing shoes again because our feet are so used to being in Uggs or sneakers or flip-flops or whatever the case may be. It's putting a bra back on and being in it all day long. There are all these things, structured pants, right? And so, I want to work with folks in a way that makes them comfortable. I don't want a cadre of Sheilas running around. My style is my style, and that is not my goal in working with clients. My goal is to, right. Aaron said elastic waistbands. My goal is to help you cultivate your own style, right? That is reflective of who you are, that honors your lifestyle, and that you're comfortable being in, right? So that you can be confident. I don't expect everybody to walk around in heels. I've been walking on my tiptoes since I was a child. That's in fact why my family calls me the nickname they call me, Tippy. So I don't expect everybody to do that, right? But I want you to, and I want clients to feel like, okay, I have found something that I feel authentic in. And because I feel authentic in it, and because I know I look good, that's something that I can project to the world, right? It's just an automatic thing. When you look good and feel good, that projects to everyone else. Any other questions? I think I'm an inverted pear. Okay, so I'm looking at Darlene's comment. I think I'm an inverted pear, heavy bust with a bloated belly and no butt. Okay. And so that may be the case. And when I send the email out and I put the calculator, the web address for the calculator in there, you can go to that and, and confirm one way or another what you are. Any other questions? All right, ladies, I appreciate your grace. I know that I am a few minutes over, so thank you for that. Thank you for your time today. And I appreciate you being, active participants here. And I will speak with you soon. Be on the lookout for an email from me. That will come within the next 24 hours. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day.